Transmissions detected.
Kill them all.
Toy shop, buy a bag of balloons with the money we've got. Set them free at the break of dawn. Till one by one they were gone. Back at base, box in the software, flash the message. Something's out there, floating in the summer sky. 99 red balloons go by.
Hello, my friends. They say the first hot air balloons weren't made until 1700s. They document them as being crudely made, but it doesn't make any sense considering we see, pictures in the books were hand drawn. They were usually very exact. It's what they used as photographs. And they say not on airships so much. That was just made up. Several news articles in the late 1800s report 5.5 foot tall Italian or Mediterranean looking men and women operating and traveling in extravagant airships with engines, electricity, and music. Many reports of people seeing dance parties on board these things. At the same time, it was reported a man had invented anti-gravity wires, anti-gravity ships, things that can, not be explained. Strange events were reported in California before this around November 17th of 1896, and it went on through 1897 in January. People witnessed this flying, fiery object. It was spewing out flames and sparks, and several other crafts were flying around with it. They were pulsating different color lights. Now, people thought it was a magic trick of some kind, or spirits of the ether. Nobody knew. But they knew what airships were. And when looking into the story, there were 3 different accounts. One of the fiery things, one of people in airships having a party of some kind, and one of aliens. I'll get back to it. Now, mainstream said that they were mistaken, or everybody lied. It was just a big hoax, depending on what story you read. Now, in Nebraska and Omaha and 20 other, states, those witnesses were said to have been mistaken for seeing flying, fiery, sparky thingies too. As many times as we recorded this thing, this winged object doing acrobats over the city, look, this right here. Since we know it's a fact, right? Isn't it kind of rude to still have it, saying it was a hoax all this time when obviously something happened? Now, aliens were in the news back then too, can you believe it? November 19th of 1896, the edition of the California Daily Mail featured one of the first accounts of an alien craft. Right? Get this. It wasn't from just anyone. A United States Army colonel named H.G. Shaw. He claimed while he was driving his buggy around the countryside near Stockton, California, he came across a landed spacecraft. He described it as having a metallic surface which was completely featureless, apart from what a rudder he might have thought. He said it had pointed ends. He estimated a diameter of about 25 feet, said the vessel was around 150 feet in total length. And 3 slender, 7 foot tall or more individuals, or extraterrestrials, they say, approached him and from the craft. He said the craft made a strange warbling sound. The beings, they reportedly examined Shaw's buggy and then tried to physically force him back onto their airship. Now, the aliens were said to give up after realizing that they lacked the physical strength to move Shaw and force him on board. They supposedly fled back to their spaceship, which they lifted off the ground and sped out of sight. Now, Colonel Shaw believed that these things were Martians sent to kidnap Earthlings for unknowable but potentially nefarious purposes. Now, this man would have never said that. They would have locked him away, okay? It said this has been seen by some as the earliest attempt of an alien abduction. The first one published, first account, where explicitly that says extraterrestrial beings attempted to kidnap a human into their spacecraft. Oh, goodness, right? In a December 1896 report, as all this was taking place when it first started, William Randolph Hearst, who, you guessed it, American government official, a mayor and governor of New York, whatever, he said fake news. In 1897, here in America, there's no airplanes invented yet. So what did they see? Well, nobody knows. The old books tell us of these inventions. Remember the stories about the expeditions around the world and these things? Officially, it's acknowledged that a few hot air balloons did exist, but none of them had engines, none of them had electricity by any means, or were able to achieve any 2,500 feet carrying payloads. It'd be about 6 or 8 years before the first airplane flew, and even longer than that before they claimed that, they had that ability. And then we have the second wave of airship sightings, which if the one in 1896 in the beginning there wasn't odd enough, well, we have another one from January 22nd, 1897 to late May, almost June. 2 waves of weird, unexplainable crafts, and everyone's just having visions. It seems kind of shady to be a hoax, right? So in the 1890s, apparently this tech was shared by everyone. That's what I'm gathering. Or more than we're told, let's just say that. On April 11th of 1897, a news article came out saying a Wisconsin man stumbled upon a rod apparently dropped from height into the ground with a letter attached to it. Written in blue pencil, it said, aboard the airship Pegasus, dated April 9th, 1897, the problem of aerial navigation has been solved. They've spent the last few months cruising around in their airship and demonstrated their satisfaction that the ship is a huge success. They've been able to attain a speed of 150 miles an hour and rise to the height of 2,500 feet. And the Pegasus was erected at a secured location 10 miles from Lafayette, Tennessee. And having made regular trips of 3 days each from Lafayette, Tennessee, no harm has come of the Pegasus thus far. Now, within a month of their application, it says on this letter, patents for a parallel plane airship will be filed with Washington, D.C. and the European capitals. Now, about 1 o'clock, then here's another one. And this, I believe, is the Duluth News-Tribune, November 23rd, 1896. About 1 o'clock last Monday morning, the inhabitants of Sacramento who were astir at that hour claimed to have seen an airship passing rapidly over the city. Some merely said they saw a bright light, while others went so far as to say they saw a cigar-shaped flying machine and heard human voices from it. The residents of Oakland also say they saw the same sight a few nights ago. That seems odd, doesn't it? Huh? On April 15th, another fiery craft with several smaller ones with it was seen over Texas, Washington, D.C., Iowa, Michigan, Illinois, South Dakota, and Missouri. The next day, this is 1897. The next day in Lincoln Park, Chicago, 2 boys found a package in a tree. It had a golden engraved card inside of a lunchbox with a note in it. It said, "Dropped from the airship Saratoga." And on the card was a logo of a boy standing on a set of outstretched wings. And it was dated Friday, April 16th, 1897. Now, all the authorities thought that it was strange, being in the poor part of, Lincoln Park area. But they thought they just merely a prank the boys came up with. Many people saw it. They saw this card. They said it was exceptional, extravagantly made, and it appeared to be expensive. But everyone just blew it off. Many people saw the fiery crafts, the airships, and the UFOs. Senators, mayors, entire towns, sheriffs. Many people reported an airship with lights and people having a party. Not the weird lights of the other crafts they had seen. These, they knew what they were. They were like, these were humans on board. This was an airship. It moved nothing like they had ever seen before, but it was nonetheless humans. Officially, the historian Mike Dash describes and summarizes the 1896 and 1897 series of airship sightings, and he says, the general conclusion of the investigators was this was a considerable number of simple sightings, and they were a misidentification for planets and stars. Are you kidding? He said a large number of the more complex ones that you hear about, those are just hoaxes and practical jokes. See, there were so many sightings, it doesn't make any sense. One described a craft as being powered by 2 men exerting themselves on bicycle pedals, and they explained it kind of low-tech, Above the men seemed to be a little passenger compartment, and, light mounted on the front of the airship. Some witnesses said people were singing, and the craft passed overhead. Everybody waved, and it was a good time. Now, here's a list of the papers that reported all this. The San Francisco Chronicle, the Minneapolis Journal, Boston Daily Journal, Cleveland Dealer, the Duluth News-Tribune, Sioux City Journalist, Bismarck Daily Tribune, the Sunday Oregonian, Idaho Daily Statesman, the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Dallas Morning News. And there was also an attorney, and he was interviewed, and they published it. And this is what he says, I quote, It's perfectly true that there is at least a successful airship in existence and that California will have the honor of bringing it before the world. I have known of the affair for some time and I'm acting as an attorney for the inventor. He's a very wealthy man who's been studying the subject of flying machines for 15 years and who came here 7 years ago from the state of Maine in order to be able to perfect his idea away from the eyes of other inventors. During the last 5 years, he has spent at least $100,000 on his work. He has not yet secured his patent, but his application is now in Washington. I can't say much about the machine he's perfected because he's my client. Besides, he fears the application will be stolen from the patent office if people come to know what this invention is practicable of. I saw the machine last week and the inventor's invitation. It's made of metal. It's about 150 feet long and is built to carry 15 people. There's no motive power as far as I could see. Certainly no steam. It's built on an aeroplane system. It has 2 canvas wings, 18 feet wide and rudder shaped like a bird's tail. The inventor climbed into the machine, and after he had been moving about the mechanism a moment, I saw the thing begin to ascend from the earth very gently. The wings flapped slowly as it rose and then a little faster as it began to move against the wind. And this comes from the Sioux City Journal, November 23, 1896. It goes on to say this. Reports from Sacramento the other night were true. It was my client's airship that people saw. It started from Oroville in Butte County and flew 60 miles in a straight line directly over Sacramento. After running up and down once or twice over the capital, my friend came right on a distance of another 50 miles and landed on a spot in Oakland beside the bay, where the machine now lies, guarded by 3 men. The inventor found during his trial trip that his ship had a wave-like motion that made him seasick. It's this defect he's now trying to remedy. That's funny, isn't it? Now another one, the following day, November 24th, 1896, the Bismarck Daily Tribune. Now this is before all the aliens started coming around, okay? This is when they first started with the airships now. I'm sorry I jumped around there for a second, but I'm trying to give you these dates too. It said the inventor of the mysterious airship, which has been puzzling local scientists and others for the past week, is believed to be the one from Dr. E.H. Benjamin, an alleged dentist who occupied rooms in an Ellis Street lodging house for the past 2 years, but so far he successfully evaded all attempts to discover his identity. His attorney Collins, when seen and pressed to tell more about the machine and its inventor, said, "This morning the inventor came into my office in the Crocker building and told me he had tested the merits of the ship in last night's storm with great success. He hovered over steel rocks for fully 10 minutes and played his searchlight on the seals themselves." And yeah, crazy, right? On November 19th of 1897, the Sunday Oregonian printed this article. The lair of the faker, exposing the mysterious airship as a prank, putting it into the charade, they say. It contains vitriolic critique of California's inhabitants and the state of journalism in the neighbor to the south. It said, the fakeness flourishes through all the schools of journal that imitate the New York world. So basically, New York had said that they had seen one earlier. And so everybody was like, oh, they're just like the people in New York. They're crazies, you know. Well, for several months after the Sunday Oregonian article, they reported mysterious airships and sightings, but they still were happening, but they were kind of scarce. They said, well, then that was a hoax. Well, on March 30th of 1897, the Idaho Daily Statesman published an article underlying the heading, "Saw the Airship. Reputable Omaha citizens witnessed the passage of the aerial flyer," claiming the mysterious airship came into view in the southeastern portion of the horizon. It was the shape of a big, bright light, too big for a balloon, and glowed steadily. See, there's really different, types, isn't it? Let's see. It says this bright light was seen in front of this object, which seemed to be thrown out in different directions. They called a number of people who watched the strange shadow object for a long time, and they're confident in its mysterious airship was seen at so many places during the past few weeks, and this was the one. Its outlines were indistinct, but a light was thrown out from the front, and at times there were flashes of light along the sides. It moved swiftly back and forth. It sank almost to the ground just north of the city, then rose straight into the air at a great speed and disappeared into the darkness of night. They say that it was as fast as a shooting star. That's not an airship, you see, so there's two separate types, right? And there's something else that was weird. Several other reports came in around 1897 of giant anchors with ropes tied to them dragging along the ground. Most of the time, they were reported to get hung up on railroad ties or rocks and trees, and people were there, and men slid down these ropes in an attempt to free them. They'd often get help from, the peasants and everybody that's around right on the ground, and if not, they would cut it loose and fly away on the rope that was hooked to the airship. That's pretty weird, isn't it? One anchor was kept for a long time by a town in Texas. They were said to always ask for water too when they came down. They did have a conversation with a few of these townspeople one day. An old man landed one day with his crew, and he had a fantastic airship nobody had ever seen before. And they said this ship was, made out of metal and it condensed electricity. His patent was also about to be given to DC, unlike the steam-powered one and all the other ones that they had seen, these engines and propellers, Well, there wasn't one on this one. The same report that was in the other Tribune. And they reported the ships were generally moving eastward across the country. Some accounts during this wave of airship reports, both of them, claim the occupants were visible on some of these airships, and encounters with pilots were reported. The occupants often appeared to be human, though their behavior, their mannerisms, and their clothing were reported to be very unusual. Sometimes the apparent humans claimed to be from other planets, too. The total number of reported sightings was in the thousands. Based on newspaper reports, this is the official number. The total number of witnesses may have exceeded 100,000 people. Several accounts were here where people swooped down from the airships and took people on board, not to abduct them, to have a good time. They had a dance party. They always brought the people back, sent them by train or coach, and the people would be there and come back, and they would be so happy, and they wouldn't shut up about the experiences they had. Such magnificent and marvelous things they had seen, technology they didn't understand or know what to call it. And there was music blaring, lights going, And in 1896, a man, the one that I was saying about the anti-gravity wire, just around December there, the same time period, this is all happening within about 6 to 8 months time period. When they placed this wire around any object, it became weightless right in front of everyone. Supposedly, the man got the idea from his uncle's journal, and when he passed away, they took his patent, but he knew enough about it to make it. When it was witnessed to be operating, there was a piece of metal wire in his hand that copper or some kind of wire was wrapped around very crudely. And since people had no idea what terms that they could use to explain something like this or what they even meant, they say it's likely that they told exactly what they saw, which was a wire wrapped around with something he had in his hand wrapped around a small piece of metal. Another account during this time is several people reported a fantastical airship, and on board these people were having a party. Again, the same sort of story. The anchor drops out of the sky, a man comes sliding down the rope. They claim the man asked for some help with his machinery on one of them, unlike anything anyone had ever seen when they were brought on board. But they had damaged an engine of some kind, and the farmers helped them out, and the women, they made sandwiches and coffee for them. They bid them farewell, and that's the news article. But it's said that's not true, that never happened, it's just a hoax, like the other stories. But nah, all the newspapers just went crazy all at once. On April 17th, 1897, a man named C.T. Smith stepped on something weird in Grand Rapids by his house. It was a large bottle opener, and it was attached to a piece of rope for weight. The letter, there was written a letter was written there, and it was in purple pencil. Being in purple pencil to them was unusual, I see it was. But it was a SOS from the airship. It said, "To whoever finds this, we're at 2,500 feet above the sea, and we're headed north at this time. We're testing the airship. We're afraid we're lost, unable to control our engine. Please notify our people. Last location is believed somewhere in Michigan." It gives some coordinates, and April 16th, 1897 at 9 p.m. Now, what's this all about? They say it was hoaxes, misidentification, the people were crazy. And here's what they write. During the 1896-1897 wave, there were many attempts to explain the airship sightings, including suggestions of hoaxes, pranks, publicity stunts, and hallucinations. One man suggested the airships were swarms of lightning bugs, misidentified by observers. Other people said these airships, they were they're planets that they're seeing. Well, that's not true, y'all. And they note that these accounts are easy to misidentify because they're tongue-in-cheek tone. I don't know what that even means, right? But basically, they say these people were crazy, they're insane, nothing to see here. So fast forward about 100 years. On December 19th of 2005, MUFON showed up to this Texas Roswell place because Texas is where they kept the anchor. So somewhere along the way there in 1896, 1897, something happened. So they went and investigated the Aurora Cemetery, and they uncovered a grave marker, and it appeared to show a flying saucer of some sort on it. And they also got readings from their metal detector from underneath there in the grave. MUFON asked for permission to exhume this site, but the Cemetery Association declined. I mean, why not? We dig everyone else up, you know. But I guess people had more, honor back then not to dig up somebody. Now, if somebody had a funeral and buried some bodies back then, it was a different time, I don't think it was a hoax. People usually had the greatest respect for something dead, okay? They took the Bible literally and set to the ground anything dead, right? Now, after MUFON investigated, this marker, it mysteriously disappeared when they came back to look. And then there was a 3-inch pipe placed into the ground. So MUFON took their metal detector and looked again, and they didn't pick up the metal readings of the grave or nothing anymore. So you see how that works? They examined it again a few years later, and the Cemetery Association still would not let them exhume anything. And the ground penetrating radar that they used from the prior visits, well, they looked and it just badly deteriorated. They couldn't tell what was in there. It had been so long. So it was just inconclusive, basically. Now, if we go back in time 1,000 years, there's an account of an anchor stuck in some rocks. Like the same thing that happened in 1896, it happened in like 1200 AD. I guess that would be 700 years before this. It said a man slid down the rope, and the guys that were all around there, it freaked him out, so they grabbed this guy. It said that he perished right in their hands rather quickly when they grabbed him, almost like he had drowned the way he was gasping for air. And they thought it was really weird, so they all hung around, and the airship was hooked to this anchor, right? So they stayed around for about an hour, and then they say the rope was cut and the airship just flew away. It's pretty weird, isn't it? Now in 2024, we don't know what they are. In 1897, I'm sure the powers that be saw this as either an opportunity to get technology, or this is when they met the clown show's finest stars, It's a secret, the same cover-up we see today. And the stories go on forever. I could make a 15-hour video about it. There's so much info for events that never happened, documented exact, like colonels and generals and sheriffs and, senators, right? But get this, over 100,000 reported witnesses. 2 different events, 2 separate types of crafts. Then when you go around to the next view, there's 3 separate crafts, 3 separate things, right? Pretty wild. But if you look closely, it's just the same as today. Different crafts, different life forms. One of them is a light that no one knows what it is. One of them seems like it's from outer space, just lights flying around like meteors, right? But I guess it's our old friends, right? They're just up there being clowns like they always have. And that's all you really need to know about the great airship mystery of 1896, or it's really all I really got to say about it, My love to you all. I'm Wild Dog, and I am out of here.
99 red balloons.